generation of mobility.
Outside, or they're giving it away. So they're giving away ice cream. So get something cool and come over here because we've got a lot to talk about. And this is really, really exciting. We have so much going on here when it comes to space. The global space economy worth almost $500 billion. So, and it's growing and growing. And I have a great team of experts here that are going to actually talk us through. Please, please join us. We have front row seats here. Not even going at a discount. You know, please join us on the front rows here because this will be fascinating. I'm convinced somebody will get that message down there. So let me quickly introduce our great panel here. We have Jason Andrews, the co-founder and CEO of Orbite, Barbara Belvisi, the co-founder and CEO of Interstellar Labs, Nicolas Gaume, the co-founder and executive chairman of Orbite. Great to have two of you. Jeffrey Manber, the president of Voyager Space, and Jaret Matthews. Jaret, the CEO and founder of Venturi Astrolab. So right now, let's just get started here with Jason. There's no flies in space, right?
No.
Sorry about that. I have a little intruder. You know, but right now, I think when we look at space travel, I think we look back to possibly what air travel was like back in the day when it started. Probably something that only the very wealthy could afford. Is there any hope I've ever seen the Ryanair of space travel? I mean, is it right now just something that you have to have lots of disposable income to do? And when will it get to the point that we can all join in?
Well, yes. I mean, the short answer is right now it is for the very wealthy. But I think much faster than air travel advance. I don't think people appreciate with the investments that Elon Musk and SpaceX are doing that Starship is truly going to be revolutionary. You know, to fund his vision of making the species multiplanetary, we could see prices come down under $10 million for a person for a week in low Earth orbit, call it a low Earth orbit cruise ship or beyond. And I think that's, you know, potentially within the next decade. When it starts happening, it's going to happen very fast. I think we've all learned that Elon makes big proclamations. He might take longer, but they really do happen. So we should be prepared for it.
And I mean, I guess there is so much, you know, momentum and excitement at the moment. So it's, Barbara, I mean, and there's mystery about space, without a doubt. To you, you're probably going, mystery on space? Really? Who are these people? But there is a lot of mystery for, I think, maybe one or two of you, but for me as well. You know, you talk about bringing life in space, the sort of human to the entire ecosystems. Fill us in a little bit more on that.
Sure. We have a very bold mission at Interstellar, which is to protecting life on Earth and also bringing life into space. The first thing we've been focusing on, a lot of people are working on how we can bring humans to the moon and then humans to Mars. We're trying to bring the entire ecosystem with us. So building the structures so we can bring part of our biosphere with us on other planets. So what we've been working on is actually growing plants in space or in low Earth orbit, on the moon, and trying to recreate new worlds, and while protecting what we have here on this planet.
Yes. Nicolas, I'm going to give you the maybe overriding bigger question. Why does it matter to us here on Earth that we, you know, want to go somewhere else? Don't we have enough places we haven't seen yet?
I would say, you know, it's part of the human nature to go to and chase the horizon. And the horizon is always one step further. So obviously it's the journey that matters. But so I guess it's part of nature to go and explore. And I think that's what really we've seen with space. Now, having said that, I think there are a lot of great reasons to go into space for the benefit of humanity on the planet. And I'm talking about humanity because, for instance, as Barbara works, as Jeffrey works on biosolution for the future of our planet, you know, we need to be very realistic on the fact that the planet will be fine with 2, 3, 4, 10 degrees more. The humanity will die, and all the species related to humanity will die, but planet will still be there. The truth is, what matters is humanity. So going to space can procure solutions for the future of medicine, of new materials. There's a lot of microgravity research done on the International Space Station and future stations. And certainly when it comes to the human body and soul, which is what we're passionate about with Jason when it comes to Orbite, is to really think that the overview effect, which is a very strong, powerful cognitive shock that kind of every astronaut has experienced, realizing how fragile Earth is, how much the vacuum of space and the darkness around push us and to really realize we should take advantage of our human condition to save our planet. So I think for only that matter, it's totally a critical thing for people, as many people as possible, to go to space to realize how fragile and how much we should protect Earth.
It is. Jeffrey, now, Voyager Space is actually building a private space station in cooperation with NASA at the moment, Starlab Space Station. Give us a feel for sort of what does it look like? Bring us up to date with where you are at the moment with that.
Well, it's an amazing undertaking. I've been waiting decades to build a space station, so I'm really excited.
I bet.
We announced 3 weeks ago that our guest quarters will be designed by Hilton Hotels worldwide.
I was going to ask you, I think I have something down here. Is it
I
like
beat
the
you to it.
Ritz-Carlton? Okay, Hilton, that's
Hilton.
good.
It's a 5-star Hilton, and our space station will be for science, manufacturing. As Nicolas was saying, it's more about what advances we can do in the unique environment of space. There's interesting new markets and alloys, materials, but we don't want this government structure that the International Space Station has been. We want that Hilton branding. We want that consumer interest.
Yes.
We want good chefs. We want it to be enjoyable because it is who we are. We're not, we don't want this to be the post office, and we want something nice here. It's not government driven. And so we're very proud of this because it's going to be owned by the private sector. And quickly, we're entering an era now where nations like the Kingdom or companies can own private stations. And that's pretty cool. And that's what we're about.
That is, it is, it's so exciting. And even,
you too.
reading, getting it ready for this, I mean, it's
Yeah.
suddenly, it is an exciting space. Jaret, again, we're looking at what's happening at the moment, which is probably some, developments and some initiatives in a foundation stage. But, even as Jason was saying, this is going to escalate very quickly. Where do you see, I think, that big shift, I suppose, the turning point that just there's no return from?
Yeah, I think it's going to happen, as Jason was saying, faster than people realize. I was just giving a talk in the other room there, and one of the points I made was there's actually numerous companies in the United States right now developing landers and vehicles to take us to the moon and Mars. In fact, there's more than half a dozen who are all planning to launch in the next couple of years. So I think, we'll see very soon the emergence of the first kind of off-world economy.
And I think that's where, people will be, then it really makes the headlines, I think. And when we begin to see that, I think more people get interested. I even think, I come from a media background, and the general media is probably still a little confused about just how exciting this is. Jason, again, when we're looking at who goes to space, astronaut training is absolutely essential. I believe already you have the training facilities, and it's not just physically how we're all going to get geared up in a spacesuit as well. I mean, mentally, spiritually, we all need to think a little bit more. We have to think before we sign up. And then, of course, you've got to give us a feel for what that process is and, what's involved and who's interested right now.
Sure. So right now, governments train government employees to be astronauts, and it takes at least 2 years of training before you can fly to space at NASA or at ESA and other government. And we're in this unique environment where people have actually built the spaceship, so you can go to space. You can buy a ticket, and you can show up at Blue Origin, and with 48 hours later, you've been launched into space, and you come back without any preparation. And while you survive, it is an overwhelming experience because being in 0G gravity, being in 6Gs is not something you do on an everyday basis.
But you've been doing some of this training yourself.
So we've done a couple trainings already.
I would hope he's been doing a bit.
Yes. But the big point is, look at what happened to William Shatner. He went to space, he came back. It's like, oh, what just happened? That was so amazing. He was emotionally overwhelmed, as Nicolas said, talking about the overview effect. So our point is we provide astronaut training for the general public, for anyone, and it is about that mental preparation and spiritual preparation. The physical is the physical. Most people can go to space, but it's being in those small spaces, being in those unique environments. So we've developed training programs that are days, weeks, and in some cases months, depending on your mission. For suborbital training, you can do that in 4 days. It's about preparing for the vehicle, going on 0Gs, going on high Gs, thinking about your goals and objectives. You've paid millions of dollars for 4 minutes in zero gravity. What pictures do you want to take? What messages do you want to do? You should think about that. That's a very expensive, most expensive time you've ever spent in your life, and so you want to prepare for that.
I might be updating my will before I go, huh? I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm being a little pessimistic here. I should be so excited. I might be a little bit nervous on that one. Barbara, again, you talk, also in terms of, where there is and there has been some work done in terms of life science in space. So much that we can explore and we can learn from and we can use here. But how do you get the corporates on board? Because this is something that's going to demand even more investment.
Sure. I mean, I agree with I think all the panelists on the on this crowd that we need to move away from being only financed by public money and governmental money. So the next space stations that are coming up there are private companies, and it's very important we find new sourcing of funding to keep the research and to keep financing space exploration. So how do you get corporates on board? I mean, they need, if they want to grow, especially in what we do, so we're growing plants. If you're growing plants, and those guys been as well growing plants, but so if you're growing plants in space, what is interesting is the effect of microgravity in the specific environment is actually triggering the plant, and the plant will develop specific molecules. So you have a lot of molecules that plants not only find different molecules that they develop themselves in a certain way because of the different condition. When you talk about molecules and you go back to the Earth, who are using molecules? Molecules are used in almost all natural ingredients that you will find in soap, in cream, in shampoo, and in your food. And also, big one is medicine and pharmaceuticals. So if we can crack by building more and more agriculture capabilities in space, whether it's in LEO and then future on the moon, we can produce more of those plants that are growing specific molecules that can save a lot of people on Earth. So for instance, one of the first experiments that we've been working on is a small plant called Madagascar periwinkle. It's an endangered plant species that grows in Madagascar and that is producing 2 alkaloids that are used to treat cancer. And we know that by putting the plant in microgravity environment, the plant will produce more of this molecule.
Yes.
So what if we could build a huge station where we grow those plants that are actually very, very beneficial on Earth? And so this is how we're going to attract corporates, big pharmaceutical, big cosmetic company, to be the customers of the facilities we're building in space.
Jaret, if I might stay on the investment side with you for just a minute, what trends particularly do you think will attract capital? Where do you see, and also in terms of who's investing in building spacecraft and all of that?
Yeah, I think probably one of the more interesting trends over the coming years is going to be a reversal in the trend towards miniaturization of spacecraft, because there's so much launch capacity coming online in the coming years, and the economics of it are changing, such that manufacturing is going to move away of spacecraft is going to move away from the very bespoke one-off approach towards more of an automotive mass production approach, where perhaps you're willing to give up some reliability in exchange for lowering the cost of the spacecraft, and that's only enabled by the fact that you can launch so much mass so frequently for so little money.
I'm not going to bring in the EVs in space. Maybe we will have that. That's a different discussion. We'll wait for another time for that one. But it's exciting that all of that is. Nicolas, if I can come back to you maybe and pick up there on what Barbara was saying. Agriculture and viticulture in space. Talk to us about space cargo, the space research.
So it's another startup I created 7 years ago, and we actually did one of the arguably first comprehensive mission on viticulture. So we actually sent vine plants to spend 10 months in space, and because they were exposed, going back to what Barbara was saying, to this absence of gravity and a number of other space parameters, they evolved. I have to say that we did this in great partnership with Jeffrey's company, Nanorax, so I'm proud. And we actually create a new variety of vine plants, which is more resilient to climate change stressors. So we actually been very impressed, because we have a team that have worked on the subject for nearly 20 years, and it's really the first time we do an end-to-end mission bringing these plants. They have been growing for 2 years. The defense gene have evolved. It's kind of, let's call it space permaculture. We kind of put the plants in a moment of their life where they were structuring themselves, and because they were exposed to this absence of gravity, which basically gravity is something we take for granted. It's the same everywhere on Earth. But it's the only parameter of life, the only one that has never evolved since life exists on Earth for 4.5 billion years. All the others, temperature, pressure, humidity, have evolved. So as I was saying earlier, species adapt, dies, grow, but gravity is always a constant. So you remove it, you create a stress that is immense. And it's fast forward evolution. And that's something you can't recreate on Earth. There's no way we can, for a durable moment of time, remove on Earth. That's why you need to go to space. That's why you need a private space station. That's why you need Orbite to train, prepare. And not only people, wealthy people that are going to spend time enjoying the journey, but also, and more importantly, scientific researcher, technicians. That's one of the mission Orbite has, is to bring the ability for all the people that will make a difference for the way we heal ourselves, the way we feed ourselves back on Earth, to be trained and prepared. So when, in the future, when they go and work on Jeffrey Station, we would want them to spend a few weeks with us at Orbite to get completely prepared.
No, and I mean, that's very exciting. This the vineyard in space too. I like that idea. We'll have a new vintage, which we'll all be very excited about. Jeffrey, you know, when we're, you know, you talk about, you know, all of the ambitious plans, which is great, but, you know, success will invite competition without a doubt. So how do you see, I suppose, other nations then, you know, with private companies who want to get involved? There's plenty, I guess, there's plenty of room for competition, really.
Well, I mean, you asked two questions. I mean, there's competition, which is commercial, and then there's the evolution as we move away from 20 years ago where two nations controlled space. So breaking it down quickly, I am more than delighted. At my company, Nanorax, we had customers in over 32 countries. And so I'm absolutely delighted to see, you know, here you have the Saudi Space Commission, the Middle East, the GCC is emerging as an important player in space. You see developing space agencies from Mexico, all over, Australia, UK. They're taking on different aspects of the program. India has one of the finest programs. And this is really wonderful because each can contribute to the inevitability of society moving into space. Commercially, when I started my company, Nanorax, it was small miniaturized labs. And I made the decision not to patent it so that companies like yours, Barbara, could come along. And the hope was that there would be other companies. One of my hopes is there'd be more customers than there is now. We're still struggling on the customer side, but I welcome the competition because that's how you get stronger.
And Jason, maybe where do we get those customers? How do you help inform and educate the public, corporates, you know, more people to actually become customers?
Well, I think we're really in this point where we're transitioning from sci-fi to science fact, and the more accomplishments we see by all of the space companies, it becomes more into the common mind. You know, a lot of the statisticians say that 40 to 60% of humanity wants to go to space, you know, grew up dreaming of, like to say, unicorns and dinosaurs in space, and by the time you're 40, you still like space. So I think it's the efforts of all these companies. Our role at Orbite is to make that astronaut training experience open to everybody so that they can learn what it is to live and work in space. They can realize it is accessible for everybody. You know, I think as we talked about the analogy where you started, aviation in the 20s, fast forwarding to general populations in the 1940s, it's going to be the same thing here in space. It's going to be open to everybody, and it's the biggest emerging market. And as Nicolas already pointed out, you know, we're here at a conference talking about where's the world going, where are the next resources, how do we transition? The reality is there is a lot of opportunity from a business standpoint in space because of the resources that are there, and ultimately what you see with these, you know, some of the world's richest people, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, they're building the original railroad, you know, the Western analogy in the United States. They're building the railroad across the country to open up the other coast. You know, really that's the frontier that's opening up here in the very immediate future. And I think people are not thinking enough about how they can position their company to take advantage of it because it is literally tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it is frontier thinking, I think, and it's so exciting, and I think the possibilities are endless. Nicolas, I think you want to come in here. I can see you. Please. Please follow up on what
I think that it's interesting because there's a tipping point.
Yes.
And the tipping point is between, let's say, a Sisyphus, you know, Sisyphus, the Greek myth. I don't know if I pronounce it properly in English, I'm going to say. But anyway, where basically, and I think you said right, it's the cost of accessing space that is the main barrier. And what's happening today is that really when you go from, I think the space shuttle cost $1.250 billion to launch one flight. Yeah. Dragon is 250 million, and we're going to go to with Starship per passenger per kilo to a price that is really a fraction of that. And that's really the game changer. And think about it, only 3 years ago, America was not in a position to send astronauts to space. And it seems like it was ages ago. Now SpaceX is regularly commuting. There's Boeing coming along. There's obviously Blue Origin is flying suborbital and is going to fly orbital. So it's really a very exciting change, which is fascinating about the pace of it.
Barbara, you want to come in on that, please?
I think I agree 100%. It's going very fast. So right now we only see the first building blocks. So the first growing rockets going there, ISS turning, being taken over by Axiom, and new space station coming here. And when it comes to attracting more customers, the question is really what's the business use case for them? What is the reason for a company, pharmaceutical company, to jump into a space mission and to send experiment into space? And they will do it only if there is a business use case for them. And so this is what now, this is the next level where the space industry need to prove that it's actually working, because we have the companies building the vehicle, we have the company building the station and the manufacturing and growing capabilities. And that's part of what we do. We show to corporates the use cases and why they are going to make money by financing this mission. And that's the key to push to next level. We managed to build 0 to 1, and now we're entering the 1 to 1 billion.
I think
Jeffrey, please,
I was going to say that the amazing thing is nobody on this panel can tell you how many launch vehicle companies there are in the world.
Yeah.
Okay, and yet 25 years ago, spacefaring nations, there was one in the United States, the shuttle for human rated, a couple cargo, and the Soviets and the Russians had one. And yet today, we don't even know how many launch vehicle companies there are. What is the conclusion from that? The conclusion is that there's an ecosystem developing. So all of it won't make it, but that's the jungle nature of capitalism. What can I say? And on the basis of that ecosystem, there are companies emerging on agriculture, on Earth observation, on monitoring the environment, on new food products. I mean, so once we have the transportation, and now we're beginning to get the destinations with private space stations and other platforms coming along. Once we have those two things, you get that ecosystem. Then the private capital follows. And so we're at that moment.
Exactly.
It is about building that momentum. Jaret, please come in quickly.
I was just going to comment. I think that another important factor is just the scale of what is possible is changing as well. Starship can put 100 metric tons onto the lunar surface. Yeah. And that fundamentally unconstrains you in terms of what's possible. Throughout the history of spaceflight, the theme has been, well, mass efficiency is king. We got to make the smallest, most efficient thing we can because of the launch problem. But as soon as you remove that problem, you can start to really contemplate industrial scale activity. And so at Astrolab, we're making the equipment with that future in mind, doing industrial scale activity on the moon.
Nicolas, please.
Yes, I mean, Barbara and I, first startups, were in the digital scene, tech scene.
Yeah.
And we've lived through the various cycles. And I think it's good to quote Jeff Bezos when he built Amazon. He said, I could never have built Amazon without AT&T building the telecommunication infrastructure, without Visa building the credit card, without Federal Express building the shipping company.
So you've had a few partners helping you too, huh?
Well, the point is that he could build Amazon, and the booming of the digital tech business happened because of that infrastructure. And back to what Jeffrey was saying, well, it is today a reality that the infrastructure is going to completely be accessible, and we're not talking about decades, we're talking about years. And once this is established, going back to the point Jaret made, the number of opportunities of services you can create is immense, and the barrier to entry is super low.
Jaret, just one area we haven't, a lot of the rest of the panels and this morning we're talking a lot about energy. Where's the space for energy in space, but where is the sort of the niche space? I mean, I was talking to one colleague last night about helium-3, and what is up there that we need and that perhaps we can actually get hold of, and are the energy companies seriously looking at maybe this as additional resources?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, energy is the basis of all activity, right? So to the extent we're going to have any activity happening off Earth, energy is the core infrastructure we need in place to enable that activity. So I think you're going to see large solar farms at the south pole of the moon very soon. That will, in turn, enable extraction of water ice at the south pole. And and then who knows where we go from there.
We have just about 5 minutes left, so what I am going to do is give you all sort of a minute, the way you can pull together, I suppose, the next move for you, and maybe the big call to action, because there's got to be somebody each one of you is targeting in terms of you need something more from someone out there to actually go to the next step. So let me stay with you, Jaret, and I'll come and close off with you.
Yeah, I hope that if there's anyone in the audience listening, the message I would like folks to hear here in this community is it's now possible for, participants in this industry who have no history in space, and it's, again, enabled by this access, enabled by the scale. So, I think if you're involved with an energy company or construction company, you should start thinking about the off-Earth economy right now.
The next frontier, I think, without a doubt. If you're getting bored where you are, there'll be no boredom in this. There'll be plenty of excitement. Please, Jeffrey.
At Voyager Space, we're building a space station.
Yeah.
I just it's cool to say, okay? We're building a space
It
station.
is cool to say. It's great. We all want to come visit.
That's right. And we have an anchor tenant, that's NASA. But we're looking for more, and we're looking for governments, we're looking for companies, and it's going to usher in, and there's competition. There will be other private space stations, which is also cool, I hate to admit, and so we are looking to provide platforms to enable new manufacturing, agricultural products. So come join with us and see what we can do in this new era of manufacturing and tourism as well. So
and a bit of 5-star service.
and
on top of
5-star
it.
service.
Yeah. He's not going to skimp in terms of he's going to deliver
right,
something very, very
right.
stylish. So that'll be exciting. Nicolas.
Well, at Orbite, we train people to experience space. And I think that anyone here in the room who's looking and listening to what you can do with your business, with your personal life, looking into space, should come to Orbite and experience what is actual space to a human and what is you're ready to see, understand by yourself. I think there's nothing more relevant than experience by yourself. So we'll be opening in late 24 our facility in America.
Okay.
We have started training already. We started last year, and we have a full week of experience. We're going to experience 0G, high G, what it is to feed yourself in space, used with VR, and basically experience all the vehicles from SpaceX, Blue Origin, Virgin. So just come to us and we'll tell you what it is that the future ahead is.
And where are you opening in the US?
We haven't announced yet.
Okay.
The facility will be designed by Philip Stark, well-known
Okay.
hotel designer, and we expect to be the base camp of human exploration to space.
Okay, because the Californians have got the Silicon Valley, and Houston, Texas has got the oil guys. So we're very curious where it's going to be. I'm sure it'll be somewhere nice to facilitate.
Somewhere nice, somewhere very nice and very relevant.
Okay, Barbara, a few closing words. What do you need?
What do I need? So we already got some investment from PIF through FII, but we're always open to new investors. So we're raising our Series A early next year. And we also here because we have customers on Earth, because we sell very advanced indoor farm solutions. So if you're looking to grow species you cannot grow right now in any indoor farm, please reach out. And if you're interested to go into a mission, whether it's on the space station or on the moon, to grow specific plants, I'm very happy to help as well. So, voila. my ask.
So, Jason, I leave you the closing words. Inspire us all here, particularly anybody who might be a little cynical or doubtful about signing up for the next space trip.
Well, I think Nicolas gave a great overview on our business and Orbite, but what I'm super excited about, really of all the panelists, but what we're trying to do at Orbite is we're finally to this point where everyone can participate in space. It's really the democratization. I mean, if you are at the FII, you have the ability to come and train for space and within the decade ultimately fly to space. So I think what's exciting is that at the individual level, but I think that's also exciting at the country level. Any country now can go have their own space program. That wasn't true, even a year ago.
Yeah.
Where you can go and train an individual and actually put them on a mission and have an astronaut for a few $1 million. So I think people need to think more strategically about that. Nations, companies, and at the individual level, come have a great time and become an astronaut.
No, I mean, I think it's so exciting. And we have everybody here. They can train you up in terms of what to do. You've got space stations that can build you spacecrafts, you know, high quality accommodation. Everything is here, you know, and in terms of how you're going to grow new plants, food, research. Everybody is here, I think, to help you. So I'm excited. You know, I've done my own little tipping point having listened to you all. So I'm not sure if I'm signing up, but a big round of applause here. Jason, Barbara, Nicolas, Jeffrey, and Jaret. Thank you so much. That was so inspiring.
Thank you.
And good luck to every one of you. And we'll get a report card next year, I hope, in terms of what you're doing.
Oh, she wants a picture.
Oh, let's do a family photo here.
Photo.